Right, it is 3 p.m. on May 20th, 2022. I call to order the Board of Trustees working session. Please call the roll.
Trustee Hartshorn,
Yes.
trustee Mears.
Yes.
Trustee Music.
Yes.
All right. So the first topic on our agenda is to discuss the fire levy plan moving forward. So I will open the floor to anyone who wants to jump in first. There's no order to this. It's just going to be chaos until we decide what the next steps are after this meeting. So anything from you, Trustee Mears?
Ms. Girl and I attended a meeting on, was it Wednesday?
Monday.
Monday, with the city managers from New Lebanon and Brookville and the fire chiefs. I think we worked out something that it's kind of tool to help us with this first one that we have to pay off the remaining debt. And then they also brought up the thing about, we'll have to get new talks for the fire or
New
for
contract.
new contract. But right now, on the fire levy, they were stating that, well, we didn't really, we told them what we were thinking about doing, so.
Right. What did they say the current deficit is?
They haven't specified what.
They haven't specified it.
No. I do know that it's like 25,000 that we have that will be due the end of the year. It's a little over 25,000 to like the catch up for the last couple of years because we haven't paid that 3% increase pending the possibility of getting a levy passed.
We did talk about what jurisdictions were low in the voting thing, and that would be Terrace Park Boulevard and out there on Westbrook.
Yeah, out Hackathorn and all of that area.
That was a deficit of 81 votes. In
Yes.
those precincts.
And if I remember correctly, there was only about, 850 votes
I think so.
altogether out of 5,290 something.
But, and I asked
So-
them, that was my very first thing. Are you putting anything on the levy? They have nothing. So I think that's what hurt us. So they also stress the importance of having, the fire department, which is, which we all, I think need. I think it's some kind of insurance, but, going forward, I don't know what next contract will be. So I don't think they have even got together to discuss it. So whatever we discuss here, then we have Charity and I have a meeting Monday at 2 at Brookville.
Okay, so that has changed.
Okay.
They have requested that we move the time because New Lebanon has a conflict.
Okay.
They're requesting to change the time to 4 o'clock. Everybody so far has been in agreement with that change.
So, and to be clear, right now, the conversations are moving forward with Trustee Mears representing Perry Township so that the details can be worked out a little bit more efficiently.
Correct.
And everything outside of those meetings will be done in a public meeting
Yes.
for discussion and public
Yes.
comment. So I just want to be sure, I want to assure people that it's still an open
Oh, yes,
conversation.
Yes, no,
But we are trying to streamline the process because we're trying to find something that works for both the township as well as
right,
for
exactly.
the supporting
Yes.
organizations. Okay. Trustee Music, you look like you have something?
Well, I was going to ask that the meeting on Monday, is it just a relay of this meeting?
Kind of, they wanted us to come back after we had, we told them that we had a work session and they wanted to know if we could possibly come back.
Okay.
And we said we would not be making any decisions. We can tell you what we talked about and then, talk to them. So,
And it was more preparatory,
Yeah.
right? They wanted to get the ball rolling so that we would have information heading into this work session and then kind of keep it going that way.
because if we do put a levy on, we have to have it done in downtown by like the 2nd or 3rd of August, I think.
Yeah, it's first week of August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on to all my fun. I have been talking, I understand, and I'm not going to speak for the other trustees, but I'm sure that they'll agree with where I'm going with this. The biggest problem this township has when it comes to levies is public perception. people believe that the levies are just a money grab. It's not something that's required, or it's too much, or whatever. So what I've started doing is I've started spiraling out from where we are and collecting information from other townships around us of what the millage is for their fire and emergency services. I'm also working with the county to identify both the number of parcels and the number of households, right? Because I want to be able to compare apples to apples. I don't want apples to zebras to Volkswagens, right? That doesn't work. Because we have a lot of municipalities around us that have more residents. We have municipalities around us that are larger in square area, right? And that includes farmland, that includes businesses, that includes other tax avenues that we do not have. So when people start looking around and saying, well, Clay's paying 2.9 mil. But what does 2.9 mil equal versus, let's say, 2.9 mil to Clay would maybe closer to 4.3 here. Right? They're consuming the exact same service. Actually, they're consuming more services than we are because they have a larger area that Brookville is in charge of supporting. So I've been trying to do the legwork in conjunction with the work that you're doing with the fire departments and the city managers to try to get people to understand what it is we're paying for. One of the things that makes Perry Township so unique is the amount of farmland. Hands down. People love that about Perry. They take pride in it. And I've been accused in the past of being anti-agriculture, which is not true. I love everything about Perry Township. The problem is that there are certain things that help farmers that hurts the township financially. And this has been a relationship that's never been rectified to find where the middle ground is, right? So if you have a lot of farmland, the farmers get discounts on their acreage based on the turn of the market every 3 to 5 years through CAUV. The impact is right now, it's a 75% discount against what the tax rate is per acre. It's great for the farmers. It helps them. They need that. I understand it. The problem is that that's revenue that we don't see, right? So to that end, I've started asking questions. I've worked previously with the auditor's office on getting smarter on what CAUV is, how it affects, and what it provides, because I want to make sure that not only I need to know, but everybody should know. It shouldn't be a secret that a farming resident pulls out their back pocket and says, you don't know anything about CAUV. You're not the right person for this job. That's not accurate. But there's a lot of things with this job that I don't think anybody knows. And that's why we're working so hard to document everything, is because managing a township is a very vast responsibility. And we're working to get better at understanding that so people can ask questions and we can actually answer them instead of saying, let me get back with you. So I've got the county pulling up information regarding the number of parcels and the number of households. I'm also working with a gentleman in the CAUV office for the county to be able to show, not in a bad light or a good light, just show straight down the middle what the impact of all this CAUV acreage in the township has to something like a levy, right? We already know that the general fund takes a huge hit because that's revenue that doesn't come in through the normal taxation channels. So they said nobody's ever asked for that before. And I explained to them that it's not a matter of using it one way or another. It's a matter of being able to convey to the residents what you love about Perry Township has an impact to Perry Township. Just want to put the information out there. I want people to understand. The other thing is because of the number of residents that we have and the number of households that we have, that a lot of the tax burden isn't shared equally. I'm not saying that one way or another. I'm just stating a fact from the spreadsheets that I've gotten over the last 2 years from the county. So when it comes to a levy, we are coming to the end of the road on our current contract. When that contract expires, no one is required to provide us those services. And information is starting to be provided to us. We're still in the research phase, but that may not be our responsibility either. Possibly. More to come on that.
Clear on that, we may not be responsible for fire and EMS protection.
Yes,
That's what you're saying.
yes.
Okay, yes.
And we're getting more information legally on that. There's conflicting views from both the Attorney General's office as well as the Ohio Revised Code. Because it's usually something that's just provided. So if we come, and I'm putting all the cards on the table, I want residents to understand this. If we come to the end of this contract year and we are unable to get a levy in place that guarantees the services being provided for the entirety of Perry Township, there is a possibility that if there is no levy in place, that there may not be any services provided as of January 1st of next year. And if that happens, any cost incurred from an emergency or anything else, more than likely would be put directly on the residents' shoulders to pay for those services. And if residents don't like paying a couple $100s in levy tax, they're really not going to like the bill for emergency services because it's not cheap. So our tasking here is to find a way forward that works for the residents and the township and ensures that we're paying a fair price. More than likely with escalators because the cost of everything is going up. Look 10 years ago at how much it cost to buy a car. Look at it now, it's different. Cost of putting gas in it is higher. The cost of maintaining it is higher, buying tires. I'm speaking your language here, so you can correct me if I'm wrong on this.
100%.
But understand that the fire departments have bigger vehicles that are very special. They're specialized. They have tighter maintenance terms. They have codes that they have to maintain to ensure that they're usable at a second's notice. And that's not getting cheaper for them either. So we're consuming a service that's getting more expensive to be provided. We also have other people that consume the same services than us that are paying more for those services than we are. And that's why I'm trying to get to the point of being able to compare the apples to apples, because it shouldn't be a dollar value comparison. It should be per household, per parcel, per acre. If we have to break it down to per acre coverage, then that's what we do. To show the people that this is not about, if we had to put in a higher millage levy than Clay Township has, and they're currently paying 2.9 mil. Brookville's also paying, Brookville has a 2.9 mil levy as well for their own fire services. Because I was looking up on some of the properties in town. I mean, you can look all this up and see what's out there, and it looks like it's the same.
Well, that's, in town would be still considered Clay Township.
No, in town, like around Market and Hay Street.
I mean, that's still Clay.
That's not Clay.
It's not Clay.
All the way to Westbrook, it's just incorporated. Did they still vote for Clay?
Wow, it said Brookville. It didn't say anything about Clay.
Yeah, it's still.
I'll have to look back at that.
That's why they're the same millage.
Okay,
Yeah.
then that makes perfect sense then. That's something I did not know.
Brookville Incorporated does not pay anything.
Brookville
per
doesn't pay
se.
anything, so that's right. Okay,
They do pay. Don't let me, they do pay.
Theirs is paid through their
Through
general
their general
fund,
fund, it's not
Right.
paid through anything else.
Right.
which is collected from their income tax.
okay. I thought Clay just went up to past the overpass,
Oh, no.
up to the park.
No.
So, okay. Well, I learned something new. See, I
Oh, no.
am not opposed to learning something new, and I don't think anyone
No.
sitting at this table is opposed to learning
No.
something new.
So just to add a little bit to what you said there about the cost of that coverage, if it's not provided, the cost for insurance will absolutely go up on your personal homeowner's insurance will go up.
Right,
And I'm sure that cost per year is probably also higher than what the additional tax rate would be, if I had to guess.
well, and to be fair, we haven't even looked into the OTARMA risk to find out what the risk of the township is for not having those services available to the township, to the administration itself.
And we don't even know, I want to stress this, we don't even know if that's something that the fire departments would be willing to do.
What is that?
Go where they,
Per
run.
site billing, you mean?
The cost would go up exponentially
Yes.
because they would then have to also generate bills
yes.
and collect the bill payments on that. So yeah, it's a very precarious position that we're in. And to be fair, this township is currently writing, for anyone who doesn't know, township is writing on a levy based on 2010 property values.
Right.
The contract that was, well, do we know when this contract was, the current contract was put in place? Was it a 10-year contract or?
It's every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
So just in the last 3 years,
Yep.
we hit the tipping point where we're underpaying what we owe. Okay. So that said, we were paying a suitable price for the service we were receiving. And probably in 2019, I think, that's when they started the talks of the next contract. At no point was discussions of a new levy.
No.
In the last 10 years that I've been able to find for the township ever brought up.
No.
So one of the tasks that we took on this year was doing the future planning for the township. Not just what we need today, not just what we need tomorrow, but what we need for the next 5-10 years. And one of the things that we have to take into consideration is, what do we consume? And what is it going to cost heading into the future? You know that, for example, Jefferson Township has their own fire department. They run a 14 mil, they have a 14 mil levy right now. And it goes up. That was something that was brought up during discussions last year with Chief Heiser and I forget the other
Chief Fletcher.
Chief Fletcher. Regarding what it costs to consume a service versus what it costs to provide the service. I don't think anyone in Perry Township has an appetite for establishing a fire department.
No.
I think I can say that pretty clearly, but I am open to people correcting me, so send me an email. I'm on the website for the township. But that's much more expensive. So trying to find something that works for the township and works for those providing the services is the current task at hand. We've gotten a lot of information from both fire departments as well as the city managers. And we are in the early stages of collecting that information and being able to form our own site picture of where we need to head for this township. So this is not the only working session that we'll have on this
No.
topic. We are just starting our battle rhythm on that. So there will be more conversations as we accumulate more information because we have to bring it together to be able to decide where the next steps are. So that said, Charity, you got a lot of information in a pretty quick turn over the last couple of weeks. What are your thoughts on where we are with the current information that we have?
I mean, it's pretty much, it's a no-brainer that we're gonna have to have the levy. It's just right now trying to figure out what we think is an achievable goal
Right.
and trying to get that to balance to what Brookville and New Lebanon are wanting.
Right. And so I think that's a very important point to put out there. This is not whether or not we'll put a levy on in November.
We have to.
This
put it
is-
on.
What the millage will be for the
Right.
levy based on the township needs. And the other thing that I would say is we're moving forward talking with both New Lebanon and Brookville Fire Departments is that find out what terms they're open to,
Yeah, right, yes.
because levies do need to be adjusted. Every 10 years is probably a little bit much. But if you plan for 5, every 5 years, I don't want to say you keep adding, Because at some point, we need to address the issue we have with the initial levy.
Right.
This year's not that year. This year, we're trying to figure out the best way forward for, let's say, the next 5 years. But that gives us 5 years to figure out a replacement for the 2010 levy, which will at that time will be, what, 17 years old
Mhm.
and well past its likely usefulness to ensure those services. But that's for another day. That's not for today. I'm just, for the sake of explaining stuff, we are looking for something that gets the township services over the next 3 to 5 years. And then have a more long-term planning to figure out how to address everything previous to this year. So,
Well, and the thing we have to be careful with that 2010 levy is the fact that it's still eligible for rollbacks.
right. And then that was something that I wanted to make sure was also out there.
Yes.
People understand.
And that's also a continuous one.
It's a continuous one, and what happens is it has the rollbacks, which means the state actually picks up a portion of all of the property taxes. If you look at your property tax statement, you'll see it on there.
Right.
If we do anything with that levy, rollbacks is no longer an option. It's not there. So whatever the benefit is that the taxpayers getting on their property taxes currently would go away, and it would all become responsibility of the taxpayer at that point.
Let's bring this up, at least as far as the last tax levy we tried to pass in November. It passed in Perry Township. I just want to make that clear. People wanted this to pass. It was within the incorporated limits of Brookville is the only place that it failed. And so if, my only kind of plea or my only advice or anything I can say to the residents of incorporated Brookville is along that Westbrook line, you guys still live in Perry Township. So no matter how you feel about, what the city of Brookville's doing or what, where they're putting a house or what kind of house or whatever made you angry or mad to vote that levy down. Because in my opinion, that's why it got voted down, was retaliatory towards what was happening inside the city limits. The city of Brookville does not contribute to the fire budget. Clay Township and Perry Township does.
Right.
Now, just to be clear, the city of Brookville does contribute out of their general fund if there's a deficit in that spending. But I would just, say that it was important to most Perry Township voters that it passed. And if the folks that live within the incorporated see that, felt that way, they would probably see that it's important for it to pass as well.
So to back up what you're saying, a couple of years ago when I was running for this position, I went old school and I went door to door. And I went through Terrace Park. And I went up and down Westbrook on that side of the road. And just about every person I talked to didn't know that they were part of Perry Township. And I let them know, I said, look, if you look when you go to vote, there's a number of issues that you get to vote for that say Perry Township. And a lot of people were confused. I mean, and I probably talked to 1/7 of the people that lived in Terrace Park, at least one member of the 1/7 of the households in Terrace Park. And they didn't know. And I have no idea if it went further than that or not. But
I know that word's gotten out, over the past few years.
And we've been working very hard to get people to understand that because there's nothing that tells them.
Right.
I mean, other than their tax statement that they
Can
get.
go their taxes,
But,
it says Perry.
I mean, most people have an escrow
Yes.
and it just pays that out. You don't even see the bill. So, this is what I was saying at the beginning of the meeting, is that a lot of this is public education and providing information for the public to better understand
Right.
both the situation that we're in and where we're trying to go with this. This is not something that we're doing for fun. This is not something that we're doing just because it came up on the calendar. This is something that we're doing because one, the contract is up and we need to ensure that somehow services are provided. Whether legally or not, we're required to, that's yet to be said. But as a resident, I would really hate for my house to catch on fire because of something. And I have to deal with both insurance as well as a payment to a fire department. That is literally salt in the wound.
Mhm.
And it's not anything that I would be upset at the fire department for. But that burden would be mine because there is no services provided to me as a member of this township. And that's something else I want people to understand is, you know, our responsibility is not to ourselves. Our responsibility is to the entirety of the township. And if people have questions, we want to hear them. We want emails. You know, if you can come to meetings, come to meetings. If you feel better talking to someone in the office, you can call Ms. Kaler Monday through Friday, and she can get message to the elected officials, or you can reach out to us directly. Our email addresses are on the township website. You can also send an email that'll come to all four of us, four of the elected officials at officials@perrytownship-mcoh.org.
Which I believe is also on the website.
It should be, but I don't want to count on telling people to go to the website. I would rather provide them the information, and if they consume it, great. We probably have more people from Brazil, Germany, and Uganda come into the township website than we do from the local. And that's honest. I mean, that's, you know, I look at the metrics. I see who's coming from where based on IP address, and it's we have a growing audience, but it's not. The goal of the website was to put information out there for residents to be able to understand more and then ask finer questions in return. And
And it
want to
would
make
be
sure they're
nice if
doing
they
that.
could come to a meeting because this person here may have the same question this person has over here and we can.
And we've seen that a few times,
Yes.
you know, so, and the other thing too is that the trustees are more than happy to meet with residents.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can contact the office and set up a time, you know, we can work out a time that works. You can meet with any one of us. You can't meet with more than one of us at a time, but you can meet with each of the trustees when you have time. So we're putting ourselves out there, both doing the work to find the best solution for the township, as well as talking with residents. Your concerns are not meaningless. They are not silly. They are not a problem. But what we do need to get people to understand is that we're here to either provide the answers or find you the answers, and make sure that you, your family, and your property are safe in Perry Township. So with that said, I will jump off a soapbox. And was there anything else about the fire levy that we want to discuss today?
No, I don't have anything at the moment.
Okay.
Now we got more homework.
Hopefully we'll have more information Monday.
Right. And we will probably need to be setting up another working session. Probably within 2 weeks. Because it may take more than one conversation with Brookville and New Lebanon to get to the point where we have something to discuss. And I don't know about anybody else, but Friday afternoons, does that work for people?
Yep.
I'm
Does it work
good.
for you? Okay.
Do we want to look at June 3rd? That's 2 weeks from today.
Should be fun. I think.
There's no holiday there. Yeah.
No, the holidays next
Oh,
week,
yes.
June 3rd.
Yes. So June 3rd, we will have the next discussion on this. That'll give us plenty of time to get the information.
The same time, 3 o'clock or
3 o'clock, 3 o'clock works for me.
Perfect, yeah.
And that way we'll bring back what we find out Monday.
Okay. And when you get the information back.
Yeah.
If you could summarize it.
Okay.
And send it to Karen.
Okay.
And that way, if we have any rebuttals or anything else, that gives you time to get back with them
Got it.
before the next meeting.
I can do that.
Okay. All right. So the next topic was the police levy discussion. I attended a webinar last week regarding some state grants that are based off ARPA funds to bring. Basically, there's a number of ways that you can use this money. One of the ways is to be able to hire additional officers to get to where you were pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, we were in transition. We were
Yes.
trying to build to a 24/7 police presence. So I don't think that one would necessarily fit. The other one is that the grant is 2 years long. And you can, basically, we have to write up the proposal and everything else and send it in through sam.gov. And we could do 10% of every officer's salary as a retention bonus to offset our ability to retain officers because of the per hour rates that we pay, right? The state has identified this as a huge issue across the state of smaller towns, municipalities are losing officers to larger entities that can pay more money. And this has been an issue for us. So this would not cover, you can't use the grants to buy equipment,
Just for salaries,
but you can use it for evaluations,
training,
training.
shooting range.
If it's time at the range, not necessarily ammo for the range.
Yeah.
Another thing that they mentioned, and I thought this, I wondered why we didn't think of this sooner, was that while you can't necessarily buy gym equipment for your facility, you can get gym memberships for your officers to encourage them to have a healthier, I mean, it's a stressful job, and anything that allows you to mitigate that stress is a good thing. They talked about wellness plans, working with a counseling service, that would be covered. Gym memberships would be covered. There's a lot of options there. So I'm gonna collect that information that I got. I'm gonna send Trustee Mears through Miss Kaler. Because Trustee Mears currently is the point of contact for the police department. Because we have a fire levy this year, the possibility of doing fire and police does not look like that can happen this year. Not saying definitively yes or no, because we haven't voted, we haven't had a conversation on it. But if we can get grant money over the next 2 years to ensure our ability to add police officers and retain the ones that we have, I think that would go a long way towards making Chief's job a little bit easier and some of his major complaints addressed in one way or another. Does it fix everything? No. But it is adding some tools to our police force that allows them to be healthier, be happier, and to do the job better. And I think that's what, honestly, I don't think anyone could ask for anything more from their police force. And I think this is worthwhile to look into and see what we can submit. It does require dollar values. We're gonna have to do the math on it. They did say that make sure that they're round numbers, or no, they said make sure they're not round numbers. Make sure that they're as specific, so 10% of their salary maximum over 2 years. So
Which I think Chief actually already has a lot of that.
I think
He's already
he
been
does,
putting
yeah.
together,
because
because he even kind of put together a thing he was showing me that was like just like a small increase each year, what that would look like to the budget.
and understand that we do have positions that we don't have people in. And I think our incoming per hourly, our hourly rate is too low.
Way too low.
To get the quality officers in that we need. And to ensure that we're not just a training hop on officer's career. Because let's be honest, starting out in my career, I would work for just about anybody when I got out of the Army, and I learned real quick, they're making money off me, not the other way around, and I moved on. I think everyone has a very similar experience, either themselves or someone in their family, that you have to go where you can and figure out your next steps. And right now, I don't know the exact number for our officer turnover in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's substantial.
Yes.
we've had a number of positions that we've rolled through multiple officers in the last couple of years, just in my time here. So,
And I have to say on those, a lot of the guys that's part-time, they've been here for a number of years.
yeah,
They're the older ones that have stayed with us. And the younger ones seem to come in, get their feet wet. Like I've always
Right.
said, it's a stepping stone. And then they go to, then they go to something
So-
that pays more money.
so they did say for the part-time officers that you could use their previous year's W-2 amount to figure out their percentage because they don't have a set number of hours that they work in a given year. Some places have auxiliary officers that
Right.
only work at certain events.
Right.
So that's how they were saying to do, for anyone less than full-time, you can do that with their previous year's W-2s to figure out the percentage.
That would be good.
So more to come on that. We'll have to talk to chief and let him know
Yes.
which way we're leaning on this, but that we do have options for making sure that his officers are taken care of.
Okay.
The last topic that we had was the electric aggregation discussion. And I am going to open the floor
Okay.
for that topic. So please, anybody who has something, and I believe it's Trey Bell, right?
Yeah, Mr. Garrett called me and he was the one who put this on before. And he wanted to know if we would be interested and he was going to contact Brookville also. Clay has passed it in theirs and they did it when we put it on our thing. But what he brought to my attention, and everybody's aware that the GP&L bill is getting ready to
Essentially, no.
double. And this would be a perfect time if anybody's interested, or if you have it now or don't have it, and we try to explain to them again. And he's more than willing to come out again, come out and talk about this and how it works, sign everybody up if it passes. He wanted to know about putting it on the levy. And again, like I said, he's going to contact Brookville. Clay's already done it. I think Jefferson did. I think Jefferson approved theirs or whatever. So I think it's a great idea with it going to be
This is
doubling.
adding aggregation to the ballot
Yes,
in
yes,
November.
in November, yeah. And like he said, and don't quote me on this, it's like 0.4 or something, don't quote me on that, so what their rate is, or 4 point, I don't know, so compared to what you're going to be paying, so,
So the last time we voted on this, it was voted down pretty strongly.
Yes.
And I don't
And I
know,
think at that time, though, energy costs, I don't know that they were
but
necessarily,
I don't think a lot of people
That's right.
understood it, because you can opt out of this, you make one phone call. And, we tried to make it, if you don't want it, we would even help you here,
Right.
or Joe said his office would help you. So,
the key is that, I'm gonna be very honest, Trey Bell pays for a lot of stuff for the OTA.
yes.
They sponsor the OTA conference. There's all their swag is 3/4 of what's in your bag when you go. There is a relationship that's been established there between
Yes.
the OTA and Trey Bell specifically. The service that they provide, an individual can go out and there, you can go and find
Yeah.
ways to get your own
Sure,
provider of your electric service that you would pay. So you only pay the delivery portion of the AES bill or whoever your electric's through. But then the actual generation of it and consumption would be through whoever that provider
Yes.
is. Now, that is not necessarily an easy I don't want to say not an easy process. It could be a confusing process because they all have, you can get a low rate for 3 months and that spikes. Because some of the providers, it's about getting you in the door and then locking you in for a period of time with the ability to raise the rates after a certain period. This is not a service that a person cannot do for themselves. But I will be honest, we have a township that has a median age of, I think it's 67. It's over 60. I shouldn't say 67, but there's a median age in the township of older people. And just from what we've seen from putting a Facebook page, putting a website, doing Zoom meetings, stuff like that. Some of the stuff that we're doing, I think shoots over the heads of a good portion of our residents.
And they were the ones who came to the meetings when Tribal came. And that's what I mean by, I don't think people really understood, and
right.
it's like, they thought they were getting another like
So-
DP&L company and you're not.
So to be fair, you do have the option to opt out, and that is probably the easiest part of the entirety of the process is opting out.
Yes.
So, excuse me, I was not a fan of this discussion just because it was voted down so strongly, but since we do have other stuff on the ballot, and this is kind of what they do, because if this was the only thing that we had on the ballot,
Yeah.
then we'd have to pay to put this on the
Right.
ballot.
And I agree with what you're saying, but I'm also saying everybody is at home and they're watching the news and they see everything going up and
Right.
if I was out there, I would think, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I didn't know it was there. So,
And I agree with that.
Because this will absolutely save money.
yes.
Well, and one thing I'd like to add on to that, coming from stuff that I've recently been dealing with, is there's a lot of people that probably forgot years ago, there was a company that came through
Mhm.
and they set a lot of people up independently. I've recently found in where everybody's contacting, hey, yours, look at yours, evaluate it. A lot of those contracts that were established, 6, 7, 8 years ago, people don't realize they're working outside of the agreement. They're working on an expired agreement. So they're already paying higher rates than even what AES is, just because they're working off in an expired agreement. So I recommend that everybody look at the back of their utility bills, and it'll tell you, if you look at the back, it'll tell you who your supplier is, if it's anybody other than AES or whatever, and it'll tell you what your rate is. And I reviewed one the other day that they were actually paying double already what AES's rate is, because they were working on that expired contract.
And that's a good point. That was never brought up previously.
No.
I know I was in the peanut gallery when Joe came through the last time. And to me, it didn't make a lot of sense then, because there was the ability, but I was also taking for granted my level of technical knowledge, financial knowledge and whatnot, that would make it easier for me to go out and find that on my own if I wanted it. If I felt that my rate with AES was too much and I wanted to negotiate something else, I could do that.
But I think we've all maybe have got those calls. I know as a business, I get them
Oh, yeah.
all of the time.
Yeah.
About, hey, just send us, send me a copy of your electric bill and we'll get you a cheaper rate. We can beat that rate.
Yeah.
Guaranteed it. And you don't know who to trust.
Exactly.
And I think that's the hardest part to making that decision is the fear that you're going to get ripped off
Right.
is so high that you're not willing to take the risk. And so.
And
the people who dealing with a company who has built such a great relationship with the townships of Ohio
Yes.
gives them some legitimacy.
And that's what I was gonna say, Zach. We know this gentleman, and like Jason said, with OTA and everything else, they all have a reputation. And I know before we've had other people come in and it's kind of like, well, you're kind of like a fly by night company to me. That's kind of the impression I got. So,
Well, and I think if I remember correctly, after Traybell came, we did have another company
Yes.
come out and talk with the township, because there was an appetite for it. They
Yes.
wanted to be
Yeah.
on the menu. So was Traybell only talking about the electrical? Or are they still, because they were pushing gas and electrical last time.
he just mentioned this time
Okay.
electric.
I know we don't have gas
Yeah, I don't have.
infrastructure throughout the entirety of the township. The northern half doesn't have it at all. And I can't speak about South Amity.
The northern half would have it through Brookville on.
Yeah, it's not in the area. There's nowhere to tap in or get a run.
I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
I
The
see what you're
infrastructure is
saying.
not
I got you.
there.
I got
Right.
you. Okay.
It's out around the
Yes.
periphery.
Yes,
But
yes,
it does
yes.
not come in towards Wolf Creek,
Correct.
Clayton.
I got you.
or Bear Hill.
Well, and one more thing to add to that, because this is something that we did receive here at the township, and I think I forwarded it to all three of the trustees, is the township itself had been set up with an energy company
Right.
to keep our bills lower. And some of the residents that may have set up with them as well will probably be getting notices, just like we did this past week, that company has notified AES they will no longer be fulfilling their agreements. As of June, anybody that had previously enrolled with them will be getting switched back to AES. And when that happens, should they decide to go with another company for their service, they have to do it 12 days prior to their meter being read and their or their statement being generated for it to kick in for AES, for them not to charge them on AES's rates.
So chances are most people won't have anything in place prior to the June 1st transfer.
Correct.
I think that's when AES is going to start doubling.
Mhm.
So we will put information out on the Facebook page as well as the website, encouraging people to look at their bill. We'll have to scan it. Basically, we could scan in one of the townships ones for like B and just provide that as an example because one, it's nominal usage. I mean, there's one sodium light out there that's broken most of the time. It's not because they're flawed bulbs, it's just people like to throw stuff at those lights. But we can provide an example of what to look for, what to see. And are you working, since Joe reached out to you?
Yeah, I can give him a call and see, maybe he can come to our June meeting.
Yeah,
Is that if, I'll just reach out. And then maybe.
June or July. I mean, we do have the time. It really depends on what happens with the levy. So if we have to talk levy business,
Still gotta have it on the ballot by August.
Right.
well, it would have to be on there by
Yeah.
August. Okay, June it is.
June,
Yeah.
okay. And then maybe we can put something out on the website that
Yeah.
they'll be here if you want to come.
And if you tell Joe that if he wants to provide any videos,
Okay.
CPTs, or any other information that we have a social media presence now, we can put it out there. So if people can't make it to the meeting, they can at least consume the information
Got it.
or have an opportunity to.
Yep, I can do that.
All right. I did have a circle around question regarding the fire levy. And I am not saying this for any other reason other than the fact that I know we haven't spent it yet, but the money that was donated my first year was still sitting, waiting to be, it was earmarked for payment to the fire departments, right? Because we had a deficit then.
This is your pay.
My pay,
Yes.
yeah, I donated 8 months of salary to pay into the fire department bill that we had. Those haven't been paid and I don't know. I apologize for bringing this up in the meeting. I meant to bring it up to you before. So this isn't a surprise thing. But that money is it still available?
We still have some of the funds available. What happens is at the end of the year,
Right.
basically everything clears out and it becomes part of the overall estimated resources for the fund in which the funds were placed into.
And we put that in the general fund, so we'll be able to disperse it, because if the stuff with the fire levy went through, we wanted to be able to spend the money somewhere else, because it was donated. I did want it back. So, okay, I wanted to.
And of course, there are some questions there that I'm still waiting to get clarification from.
Right,
Because there's some concern with ways some of it was handled, that it may not have necessarily worked out
the way it was meant to.
legally.
Gotcha.
Because when you donate your time
Mhm.
and that money comes back into the township or doesn't come out of the township, it actually has to go back into the funds in which it was paid out of.
True.
So there's some legal issues there.
Yeah.
I should have cashed it and gave it back.
Well, no, I did.
No, he-
That's what I
But
did.
that's the problem, because it came back as a donation. Because it's funded through public funds.
Okay,
Yeah, I paid taxes on it.
right.
I paid it back immediately.
But if somebody from the street wants to come in and say, I'd like to go ahead and pay this, here's $23,000.
But those funds
Those
never came
from the-
from funds,
Budget.
from the budgets.
Our salaries are split,
Yeah,
right?
even though
So,
they gave you a check, we cash it.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Percentage of each one.
Correct.
In
I
each
was
one.
told, I was asked, don't we put this in the
Right.
general fund? And I go, no, you're going to separate it the way you paid me, because
Correct.
that's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
right.
And that's part of the issue issues that we're dealing with right now is because that was done on multiple occasions. And I have been told that that's basically a big no-no because those are funds that are generated through levy. And it's just kind of like a roundabout way
Of moving it around.
of moving it around.
And that makes perfect sense. I didn't even think about that at the time. I was too busy learning how to do my job rather than.
So say, for example, one of us just decided that we wanted to donate money to the township for any reason.
Mhm.
Amount was equal to what we get paid is, you're saying.
It
that
comes
there's
into
no
question
deciding
if it's
where my money came from.
correct.
Okay.
I mean, it's the whole thing of if it's a dollar for dollar, then it comes into question of was,
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
You would more than likely have to sign something,
Yeah,
which I didn't have to do. I wasn't told to.
right.
To state that the funds were acquired elsewhere and are being donated. So that makes sense. I know I'm probably gonna get questions because people still ask me about that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for show. I was literally trying to help the township and may have created more of a mud pie. So.
'Cause, I mean, and that's kind of one of the things we're dealing with right now because there are a few members of the zoning commission because they do get paid a fixed amount for meetings. Most of them have addressed that they don't want it.
The BZA, not the
Yes.
zoning commission.
The BZA, that they don't want it. They want to keep it. It's kind of like their service back to their community
Right.
in doing it. So I'm working currently with legal counsel to develop how the best way to do that is, because they said, it's more of a statement that needs to be prepared, and then it just leaves the funds where they're at. They never come out, they never leave, but we have the statement that that's what their wishes are to do with those funds.
So more to come on that, I guess.
Yes.
Sorry, like I said, for bringing it up I had a note here as I was talking, I was like, somebody's gonna ask me this.
Mhm.
So I wanted to be able to at least say that we're looking into it still because of the legal ramifications. So, great. Is there any other topics, comments? Anyone has? I'm looking either way. I don't see any. All right. That said, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that motion.
Trustee Music,
Yes.
trustee Hartshorn,
Yes.
trustee Mears.
Yes.